On this episode of MythBusters, it's automotive madness with Team Extreme. Adam and Jamie push the limits of auto audio
Well, it better work. My shirt's all dirty.
when they test the myth that a car stereo can seriously damage your car.
That looks like it worked.
And Grant, Carrie, and Tori hit the rough road
Faster. Yeah.
to prove driving faster leads to a smoother ride.
Ready for your 45-mile-an-hour run. Paramedics are nowhere to be found.
Who are the Mythbusters? Adam Savage and Jamie Heineman.
This is gonna kill you.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience.
That's what I'm talking about!
Joining them, Tori Belleci,
Very excited about this.
Carrie Byron,
Look, he cracked into his skull.
and Grant Imahara.
Don't say anything.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
Inexplicably, Adam's wearing chainmail. What is the myth?
Well, apparently there are some car stereo systems that are so powerful that they're capable of destroying the car that houses them.
We're not talking about, like, destruction over time, right? Not bolts rattling loose over a period of weeks. This is turn on the stereo and the car just becomes a junker, right?
That's correct, or it explodes.
When it comes to the size of a man's subwoofer, big is not only better, it's essential. Some guys just have to play it loud to be proud. But is it possible to make your mobile sound system so powerful that when you crank the dial to 11, the car explodes?
So what's the plan?
Well, this time I think we need to get right into it and just go big.
Hell bent for leather, no shop tests, no small scale, just build the biggest subwoofer we can?
That's right, the biggest thing we can possibly fit in that car and go for maximum decibels.
And hopefully max destruction.
So it's a simple plan. Build the most powerful subwoofer possible, and if that doesn't destroy the car, then nothing will. But how can mere sound destroy something as solid as a car? Okay, so we know a speaker produces sound. It does this by switching an electromagnet on and off and vibrating the speaker cone. This moves air back and forth, creating waves of pressure. This sound pressure level is measured in decibels, and in theory, with enough decibels, enough pressure, you can break anything. And Jamie and Adam have already proved just that. On this classic episode, they confirm the destructive potential of sound by hitting the right note. But on breaking glass, the key ingredient was finding the resonant frequency of the crystal. To shatter a car, this car, they won't be messing around with sound quality. They want decibels, and lots of them.
All right, let's get her off the ground. Yeah.
With the car in position, it's time to begin the supersized subwoofer installation. Step 1, make room by removing all mod cons and luxury extras, like the front seats,
You could make a robot out of one of those
I
things.
think I could make a robot out of one of these.
the back seats, and the steering wheel.
Now, this is cool. I want this.
A typical subwoofer has a cone size of around 10 inches. But in true Mythbuster fashion, the Mythwoofer will be anything but typical.
It's 52 inches,
Oh, man.
which means we're talking probably a 4-foot speaker cone.
When you look in this car, what you're gonna see is the entire interior of the car filled with speaker cone that's gonna be moving up and down. And it should be quite entertaining.
So finally a myth from our Australian contingent, although I would imagine that anybody who spent time driving on dirt roads would know this one.
The myth is, if you're driving on a rough dirt road, it's better to drive fast because it smooths out the ride.
Okay, so how exactly do you get these mythical good vibrations? Apparently, at slow speeds, the wheels of the vehicle have time to drop down into the troughs of each bump, resulting in more bounce than a kangaroo on a trampoline. But according to the myth, if you put your foot down, the wheels skip across the tops of the corrugations, giving the passengers a much smoother ride.
Well, you know, that sounds pretty easy to test, isn't it? I mean, what are you going to do? Just go out and get a bunch of cars and test them on rough road?
You know, I'm not sure it's that simple, Jamie, because, I mean, you guys have to figure out a way of measuring the vibration that's happening to the car under different speeds and different road conditions, right?
First things first, they're going to need a car.
This is a 1978 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme.
Listen to that baby purr!
And to measure the rough road ahead, this old classic is going to need a MythBusters makeover. To objectively record the vibration intensity at different speeds, they have 3 systems in mind. Tori has an idea for a suspension gauge. Grant will crunch the numbers on a 3-axis accelerometer, but Carrie steps up with a more elegant solution.
I love that. I'm making a system to measure how rough each of the road trials is. And to do that, I'm using all of these wonderful crystal Chardonnay glasses and making them into a pyramid. Now, as the road makes the car tumble, the water should spill out from the top and kind of trickle down into the lower glasses and maybe spill out altogether. And at the end, we should have a really good representation of the roughness between a 15-mile-an-hour drive and, say, a 50-mile-an-hour drive.
So, after each test, using the 100 mil marks, they'll simply calculate the total amount of water lost. The bumpier the ride, the wetter the designated driver is going to get.
This is what your pee looks like if you have a lot of vitamins.
After filling the pyramid with colored water to make it real purty, Grant and Carrie gear up for a quick test.
Down. Okay. Okay.
Maybe we should just see what happens when we go fast.
Not so much rough road driving as rough road walking.
Okay, and time.
But did the pyramid perform?
That's a perfect proof of concept.
It was great.
Meanwhile, Tori is rigging system number 2, the suspension deflection gauge. He first welds a metal rod or needle to the suspension of the car. Then he attaches a scale to the hood. Impressive, but how does it work?
So the needle stays with the suspension, and our scale stays with the body of the car. This way, we can see how much distance the two are, traveling.
Their next task is to rig the car for Carrie's glass pyramid. To make room and provide a flat surface, Grant removes the passenger seat and replaces it with a wooden platform. Now, to get the pyramid in the car.
I think we should drain this before we try and fit it in there because there'll be a lot of fussing around to get it in.
Maybe this is a good time to take a break. In the myth that a car stereo can destroy a car, Adam and Jamie have, well, destroyed a car. They've made space for their mythical shattering subwoofer, the Mythwoofer. Now they have to work out how to power it.
Normally, speakers are powered with an electromagnet. It repels and attracts a permanent magnet, and because it's electronic, it can do this very rapidly. It can vary the amplitude and the frequency of the signal. That's how you get music and all sorts of good sounds out of a speaker. We don't need that. We're only interested in one thing, and that's maximum amplitude.
So how are they going to supply enough juice to their supersized subwoofer to blow up a car?
I figure just go directly to an engine. We can get a crank, we can go right to the output of an engine, we get raw power. That's what we're going to do.
It's another Mythbuster first, a diesel-powered speaker. To harness the engine's raw power, they'll need access to the transmission. So Adam and Jamie get cutting and open up the bodywork. From the top and the bottom. Where they find the drive shaft.
This is beautiful. That's the best news I've had all day.
Is the perfect size and shape for their mechanically powered speaker plans. With the first incision successful, Dr. Savage checks the patient is still alive and fully functioning.
Now it's not shutting off.
Which could be a problem.
Amazingly, there's a button on the engine that says stop. And I pushed it, and it stopped.
The next step is to build a mechanical device called a crankshaft, the crucial link in the Mythwoofer's power chain.
This is the crankshaft that is going to, via a push rod, push the speaker cone up and down. So what we've done is very carefully align all this stuff, and now I've got to weld it in place so that it works like a crankshaft inside an engine block.
So this crankshaft will connect to the transmission, and when the engine is in drive, it will turn and pump the speaker cone up and down via a push rod. Now to get the crank assembly into the car.
This is kind of heavy. This heavy steel bar is going to anchor our crankshaft in the car. This was the simplest, rather crude, but simplest way of really making this thing solid. So, you know, I'm determined not to have this thing just rip itself apart. I want to have this speaker rip the car apart.
That's the Mythbuster way, an appetite for controlled destruction. And with the crankshaft bolted firmly into place,
Well,
Should we start it up?
I think so.
it's time to find out if it works.
I'm gonna kick it into reverse. Hey! It's turning beautifully. Nice. That is nice.
With the build progressing nicely, Adam and Jamie call in Tori for a little fact-finding myth-tion.
This is beautiful. You're gonna love this. Dude, I need you to go to Florida for us on the Subwoofer story. I need you to go down there and check out this contest we found, the winner of which is the one with the loudest car stereo.
Okay, what do you want me to do there?
Well, we need you to go there and see if any of these car stereo systems are actually capable of destroying the cars that they're installed in.
All right, cool.
Should be a nice trip.
So Tori's off to Daytona Beach, Florida for the Spring Break Nationals, the world's most famous sound-off.
Hey, look, I'm on TV.
It's a tough job,
This is nicer than my apartment.
and Tori takes one for the team. But the Spring Break Nationals isn't just an excuse for the guys to show off the size of their equipment. They're here to compete. They come every year to sound off and find out exactly who has the loudest car audio system.
Now, you're the president of the DB drag racing. What is that?
It's a format of car stereo competition where competitors compete against one another to see who has the loudest car stereo.
Crazy but true. These guys customize their vehicles for one purpose: maximum volume. Then they compete in a head-to-head sound-off, where the winner records the loudest decibel reading. But has Wayne heard about the myth, a car actually being destroyed by its stereo?
Well, I haven't seen one detonate, if that's what you're saying, but I have seen windshields break, and I know of lots of vehicles where the panels have come undone, and I've seen lights that, you know, all of the driving lights on the top of the vehicle, like on trucks and stuff, pop out during competition.
How many decibels will it take to shatter a window?
Well, there's not an exact answer, but I would say that once you get to 160 dB, you're in a range of sound pressure levels that could fracture the windshield.
So 160 decibels can potentially shatter a windshield. And Jamie and Adam have their benchmark. But let's get some more info on exactly what sound pressure can do.
So I think we can actually name some figures to give viewers a perspective on the kinds of decibel levels we're talking about. 140 decibels is plenty to severely damage your ears no matter how short a time you're exposed to it.
And 165 decibels is what you get out of a jet airplane with 15,000 pounds of thrust.
198 to 201 decibels is enough to kill you from the shock wave alone.
Yeah, and I believe 248 decibels is what the atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki put out.
Back with the build team, and they're tackling the myth that if you drive faster on a rough road, you get a smoother ride.
We have 3 systems rigged to this car to tell us how bumpy the ride is. The first one is Tori's suspension rig, and that's connected directly to the suspension on the wheel. As that deflects up and down, there's a needle that goes up and down and a camera on that so we can see how far it deflects.
Perfect.
The second system is Carrie's wine glass pyramid, and that's filled with water, and depending on how bumpy the ride is, we'll see water slosh out of the glasses. And if we know that there's a lot of water out of the glasses, that means that they had a really rough ride. Excuse me, Garçon?
More water, sir?
Can we, can I get a refill?
Yes, more ice. Would you like more ice?
Yeah. Final system is my 3-axis accelerometer, similar to the one that was in Buster's head. And that is going to measure electronically what the deflections are, and I'll be able to load it on my computer and see.
So it's official. This dirt road drive-by will result in more information than a spaceflight. And to check all systems are go, Grant and Tori are going to get the hump by taking on the parking lot speed bumps. Grant, with full-face helmet, 5-point safety belt, and wet weather gear, is focused on the safety issues, visibility, and data accuracy. Tori, well, he just wants to go fast.
All right, hit it. Faster. Faster. Yeah. 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 Hit it. Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
We have a great proof of concept. When it hit the bumps, I could see the needle deflecting on the suspension meter. Water was flying around in here everywhere, and I've yet to check the data on my accelerometer, but I'm sure it's pretty good.
So everything's working, and it's time to hit a rough road for real. With dirt tracks in short supply in San Francisco, they head out of town.
All right. Here we are.
And just outside Sacramento, they find exactly what they're looking for. A little piece of rough road heaven.
All right, we're here at the State Vehicle Recreation Center. This is where people with motorcycles, ATVs, rough road riding, this is the perfect spot to do it.
This section that we've found here is an access road, and it actually is pretty representative of a dirt road that you might find, say, out in the country or something like that.
With their test track marked out, Grant gets into position for the first of 2 comparative runs. This one will be at the slower speed of 15 miles an hour. Meanwhile, Tori takes time out to give his buddy some words of encouragement.
And if the car does happen to go off the road and you go into the embankment, just stay put. We'll call 911, you'll be all good.
Okay, dude, good to go for run number 1, 15 miles per hour.
Grant begins his slow cruise to the start position, and Tori takes him through part 2 of the safety drill.
Once again, in case of an emergency, let's say you crash, if the car does burst into flame, you should probably exit as soon as possible.
At the start line, Grant tops up, and finally he's ready to measure, in triplicate, exactly how rough this rough road is. First at 15, and then later at 45 miles an hour.
Okay, I'm good to go for run number 1, 15 miles per hour. Over.
Copy that.
Grant eases up to the test speed, and the camera on the hood shows the axle gauge works perfectly. It's recording maximum deflections of 3 inches.
All right, Grant, so that was 15 miles an hour. It didn't look too crazy.
No, and actually it was more like 20, like the car was idling very high.
I'm noticing something. Your pants are wet. Now, is that water?
Why don't you come over and find out?
While Tori finds out exactly how much water is lost from the glass pyramid, Grant, after a quick change of pants, downloads and saves the accelerometer data. Let's come back when they're done. Back in Daytona Beach, Florida, and Super Sleuth Tori has got his ear to the ground at the Spring Break Nationals. Jamie and Adam have sent him on a crash course in auto audio for the myth-shattering subwoofer. Can you destroy a car with a car stereo? If anyone can, it's one of these guys.
So I hear you have the world's largest subwoofer for a car.
Yes, this is the 22-inch jackhammer. It is the world's largest production subwoofer for car audio.
Although you can see this monster moving to the groove, it's at such a low frequency, it's not audible. A speaker moving at speeds below 20 hertz, 20 cycles per second, produces subsonic sound. But even though you can't hear it, there is plenty of sound pressure, measured in decibels, being generated.
What kind of dBs do these put out?
We put one in an Escalade, and we were running 6,000 true watts to it, and it did a 167.3.
Now, is that enough to destroy a car?
It blew out all the interior lights on it. It rattled all sorts of things apart on the inside of it.
You guys got the world's largest subwoofer now. Wait till we get done with it.
Tori's next stop is Iasca champ Mike Bartels, the owner of one serious noise-making machine.
This is actually what's called an extreme vehicle. This vehicle is good for nothing but sound, nothing but to be as loud as humanly possible.
Put it this way, it's loud enough to make your hair stand on end.
So what kind of modifications did you do to this?
This thing is modified more than you can imagine. It actually weighs over 11,000 pounds, has over 50 bags of concrete in it, more fiberglass and steel than you can imagine, windows as thick as 4 inches. It's like a bank vault.
Now, are you doing that to keep the car from falling apart, or is that just to keep the air pressure
It's a combination
inside?
of things. The stronger you can make it to where no pressure can be released, the better it's going to be. So the louder it's going to be on the inside. You actually won't even hear that much on the outside, but inside it's just out of control.
Dude, I want to take a look. Oh my God, that is ridiculous.
The scary part about it is the way this design is, there's actually a 15 decibel difference from where you were at to the other side.
So if I was on the other side
is literally something we will not let somebody do because we don't know what'll actually happen to your vital organs at 177 decibels.
Oh, my liver. I think it might have damaged my liver.
So Tori has learned 170 car stereo decibels is enough to tear stuff up.
This subwoofer is so powerful, it takes a bolt this long to keep this door shut.
But to find out if that sort of sound pressure will destroy an unmodified car, it's back to San Francisco.
So how'd it go?
It was very cool. It was a very cool contest. And these cars are sick. The amount of dBs they're getting up to is pretty incredible.
So did you see anything on the level of like car level destruction with those kind of decibel levels?
Not like the myth talks about. I mean, there was a lot of rattling, but no panels were popping off, windshields were not cracking. In fact, they actually build the cars strong so that they don't break because they want to compress all that air. They want to keep that air pressure so they can have higher dBs.
Well, had anybody there ever seen a car get destroyed by speakers?
They had seen like cracked windshields, but no one has ever seen a car get destroyed by dBs.
So car-level destruction by decibels is a complete mystery. Even in the world of sound-off competition, where the specialists use resonance to enhance their incredibly high-volume readings. But of course, Jamie and Adam will go their own way. They'll be attempting to blow the car up with dBs alone. Raw, unadulterated volume. The plan is to power their giant speaker with the diesel engine of the car. The drive shaft will pump the speaker cone up and down, creating waves of sound pressure intense enough to destroy this unfortunate vehicle.
This is the cone for the speaker. Now, technically, we could just have a flat plate, but this will actually be stronger. It'll be less likely to bend when we start pumping up and down on it. And, you know, in a real speaker, you would have like something that was perfectly conical, but by making these pie sections, we're able to get pretty close with a lot less work. Well, there it is.
Wow, that is perfect.
Next, an attractor inner tube will double up as the speaker surround. This flexible diaphragm will allow the speaker cone to vibrate and retain a seal on the speaker cavity. And once it's glued to the aluminum cone, Adam and Jamie work on a new MythBuster theme tune.
We are actually really close to nearing completion on all the major components of the subwoofer. All that remains for us is to put in the wooden parts that will house the speaker cone, glue the rubber gasket to those, bolt it all together, and I can't think of anything else, so that must mean that we're close to a test.
With most of the box cut and glued into place, it's time to attach the push rod to the crankshaft. This is the crucial link that will transfer the power of the engine to the speaker cone. And speaking of the cone, here it comes. But will it fit?
There we go.
Look at that. Dude, that's plenty of clearance. I was all worried. We're gonna lift up.
To make sure the speaker cone stays attached to the push rod, Jamie bolts it into place.
And there we go.
Now the thing is to paint on the contact cement. This provides the main attachment between the speaker diaphragm and the body of the car.
A coat of stinky, sticky stuff and some loving attention with a rubber mallet, and the monster Mythwoofer comes to life.
At the very least, it's starting to look like a bona fide speaker.
Well, it better work. My shirt's all dirty.
Holy Christ, it is. Look at that.
And Dr. Jamie Frankenstein is as happy as can be.
It's not half bad. It's a little off, but I think it'll sort of seat as we kind of turn on the diesel. The diesel will make it fit.
The diesel engine will be putting the speaker cone and rubber surround under tremendous pressure.
Okay,
Ready?
To help hold it in place, they make an inner tube sandwich with the plywood.
Good? Is that in?
Yeah.
And with that done, Adam takes time out to reflect on a deep philosophical issue.
If a man's subwoofer is directly proportional to the size of his ability to attract women, this subwoofer says that we are way too preoccupied with size.
Back on the bumpy road, and Grant and Tori are collecting data in an attempt to solve the riddle of the rough road. For answers, our drive-by duo are going to compare the vibrations at 20 and 45 miles an hour.
All right, so we just did one run with Grant going 20 miles an hour. There wasn't a lot of movement between the axle and the vehicle.
The maximum deflection on the suspension gauge was 3 inches, and there were 3.5 liters of water lost from Carrie's glass pyramid. With the pyramid refilled, it's time this experiment moved into top gear.
Okay, Grant, ready for your 45-mile-an-hour run. Paramedics are nowhere to be found. This might be the last time we see Grant.
With his elaborate safety measures, Grant has been driving Tori crazy. But this run is no driving Miss Daisy.
Look at that water.
At 45 miles an hour on a tricky dirt trail, this is the real deal. The axle gauge is showing a lot more activity, at times reaching the top of the scale, a maximum deflection of 6 inches.
Don't hit that rock. Yeah!
But let's find out from the driver whether the faster speed led to a smoother ride.
Dude, your eyes are like wide open. Did it scare you a little bit?
Yeah, other than like kind of control problem, it's actually a lot smoother than I thought it would be. I thought I'd be like, you know, all over the place.
What is all over the place is the water from the glass pyramid. 4.5 liters were lost, 1 full liter more than the slower test.
1.5.
Which means Grant's subjective experience in the car of a smooth ride is at odds with the data. But Tori has a theory.
It might be similar to, like, say, a horse, you know, as opposed to a trot and a gallop. You know, maybe the slower you're going, you're more conscious of the actual hits that you're doing, you know, the rocks and the bumps. You're conscious of that.
Which might sound like a load of old horse manure, but Tori is prepared to saddle up to prove his point.
Okay, so I'm giving you these, and I'm going to expect you to act responsibly, be home by 11, and have it gassed up.
All right, Mom.
Act responsibly? Tori Belleci? It's possible.
After seeing Grant do that 40-mile-an-hour run, it just makes me want to get in there and go 70.
Tori may be comfortable taking the Cutlass up to 70 miles an hour, but Grant has seen the show before.
Tory and potentially dangerous situations just don't mix. We've seen it on the swing set.
I'm okay.
We saw it when he punched himself in the head with the meat hook. Sometimes that guy, you gotta wonder.
I'm okay.
With the area clear and the team at a safe distance, Tari hits the gas. Responsible drivers, those wearing pacemakers, and Tari's insurance company may find the following pictures disturbing.
Yeah, he's looking a little squirrely, just like I was.
Incredibly, he makes it back in one piece. But what exactly was his speed?
All right, I probably, around the...
Okay, calm down, calm down.
I guess like around the first set of bumps, I probably hit around 70, and by the time I passed the high-speed camera, I was, close to 75.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, let's see what the data says.
And for that, it's back to the shop, where Adam and Jamie lend Grant their massive brains in an attempt to decipher the data. The numbers from the glass pyramid and suspension gauge quite clearly showed that the faster you go, the bumpier the ride, leaving the Myth on a road to nowhere.
Now, finally, I have my accelerometer data.
But the accelerometer data on this comparative graph says just the opposite. The dark line of the 20-mile-an-hour test shows more G-force peaks, representing a bumpier ride.
Yeah, the 70 miles an hour in the first 70% of the test seems to be smoother than the 15 miles an hour, but again, like the 45, the spikes are higher.
Well, our data's in a little bit of conflict here. I mean, clearly, as you go faster, you lose more water and you have more deflection on the suspension. But our accelerometer says during that part where, the road is fairly uniform, you actually have a better, smoother ride when you're driving faster.
I'm noting that the big difference is on the big hits, like a big pothole, and obviously, I don't think anybody would disagree with us. If you hit a large hole at a high speed, it's going to make more of an impact on the car than taking it easy through it.
So what we're saying here is that the myth is plausible, but I really don't think that we can put this one to bed unless we test the washboard road, that is the type of road surface that people think about and have experienced, that driving faster makes for a smoother ride, and I think you should try it and get the data to support that.
So it's back to the drawing board. If the team want to nail this myth, maybe they have to build a replica of a track the tale is based on, the Washboard Road. These corrugated dirt tracks are common in the Australian outback, and Grant takes time out to discover how they're formed.
So it turns out washboarding is created by the response of your car's suspension to alternatively accelerating or braking or hitting a pothole. What that does is it sets up an oscillation in the suspension that alternatively compacts the dirt or makes it fly up, creating that pattern.
Adam and Jamie have souped up their ride with one thing in mind.
Here we have the original factory installation, and here we have the custom, more deluxe, a little over-the-top installation.
They're testing the myth that you can do this with a car stereo. And their diesel-powered speaker is just about ready to fire up.
Now we just have to decide what tune we're going to play.
DJ Jamie may be thinking about breaking out his hip-hop collection, but the sounds this speaker will generate won't be music to anyone's ears.
We will not be piping a sound into this speaker, but it will be making a sound. Let me explain. We are merely creating a set of pressure waves, specifically just using the car's engine to make this thing go up and down about 15 to 20 times per second. That is sound, because all sound is a set of oscillating pressure waves. It's probably going to be too low to actually hear anything, because humans can't hear really subsonic sounds like under 20, 25 hertz or 20 to 25 vibrations per second. But it will be incredibly high in the decibel range, and decibels is only a measure of pressure.
And finally, because it's a little cramped up front and no one wants to be in the car when the Mythwoofer gets going, Adam rigs a sophisticated remote-controlled device for the throttle and gear lever, involving string and, you know, some knots. So that's it. Adam and Jamie's diesel-powered subwoofer is all set to sound off. And fresh from the DB drag race in Daytona, our Duke of Decibels, Wayne Harris, is here to help measure the Mythwoofer's subsonic output.
Check it out.
It's like the world's largest wok. Holy cow, how big is that?
Good question. How big is it?
It's 51 inches in diameter.
Judging by that stunned expression, Wayne has never seen one as big as Adam's.
Yeah, it's I mean, go big or stay home. That's my motto.
I don't know if there's much more speaker that could be fit in here.
No, I don't think so.
And after a guided tour of the speaker specs, Wayne is still wearing that bemused look.
I was thinking, you're going to hook it up to the engine. I didn't realize you were going to use the transmission. So you got some serious torque. I don't even know how to convert that into equivalent power.
So do you think it actually has the potential to destroy this car?
Well, I'm pretty sure it's going to blow the windows out. At least one window. But as soon as you have an opening, you've released the pressure. And at that point, then, you're going to lose all of that energy.
So it's time to raise the curtain on this tall tale of the shattering subwoofer. Adam tapes off a safety zone, and the Mythwoofer is ready to roll.
Here it goes.
Wayne prepares his measuring equipment. The setup is simple. A precision sound pressure level sensor will sit on the windshield inside the car, and Wayne will get a decibel reading on his laptop at a safe distance.
All right, high speed ready?
Ready.
Well, it's almost time to fire this thing off and potentially blow up this car. But first, I'd like to do one quick test run just to make sure it's operational. Open all the doors so we don't build up any pressure, turn on the engine, make a test of pulling the car into gear, and a test of pulling the throttle just a little bit.
The Mythwoofer has yet to be tried. The aim of this preliminary test is simply to check the massive speaker is working.
You know what will make this test a success is the rig itself not failing.
My big concern is that the subwoofer's not going to hold together. There's going to be tremendous forces at play on the linkage between the engine and the cone of the woofer. And if the cone starts to fluctuate, it could literally rip itself apart.
You ready, Wayne?
Ready!
Okay. Stop! That looks like it worked.
Like a dream, Adam pulled the throttle, the drive shaft spun the crank, which pumped the push rod, and that in turn pumped the speaker cone through several cycles.
Dude, I'm cautiously optimistic. That's exactly what we wanted to see. We wanted to see it go without any big kaplang and things shooting off. So we know the rig works. Now it's time to close the door and do it under pressure.
So far, it's Rough Road Myth 1, Carrie, Grant, and Tori, zip. To even the score, the team have decamped to the wide-open asphalt of Alameda. The dirt road data they've gathered so far is a little confusing. The pyramid and the suspension gauge seem to indicate a faster ride is a bumpier ride. Wow! But Grant's accelerometer hinted at the opposite. To solve the problem, our intrepid trio have decided to build a washboard road of their own. So, Carrie, what's the plan?
Plan today is going to be a little back-breaking. We have about 4,000 pounds of steel angle iron that we are going to lay with about 8-inch increments and weld them all down to make one long track. It's going to be a long day.
It doesn't look that tough, especially if you edit the sequence like this. Voila! One easy-to-assemble, straight-out-of-the-box washboard road. Grant's going to tell us more about it.
We've taken this angle iron and welded it to the steel here, creating a washboard pattern. And our research indicates that 4 inches tall and about 8 inches apart is about as bad as washboarding can get.
So this steel track is an exact replica of the corrugated roads in Australia, where the myth comes from, which means when Tori's finished his siesta, there's just one thing left to do.
The test is going to be, we're just going to drive over our strip of washboard at different speeds, probably start around 10 miles an hour and then slowly ramp up to 70 miles an hour.
For these runs, the team are just using the glass pyramid and the accelerometer.
5 miles an hour and he's still wearing his helmet.
And Grant is all set for the first run. NASCAR it ain't. Cruising at a breakneck 5 miles an hour, he hits the test track. But surprisingly, Grant and the glass pyramid are really feeling the vibes.
Oh, look at the glasses spilling.
Interesting.
That's pretty bumpy.
I saw that. You could see all the water jumping out of the glass.
The glass pyramid showed a lot of activity, but the high speed is inconclusive. The wheel is bouncing, but how much, we won't know until we see a comparison. Time for run number 2. Grant has to keep the speed at a steady 40 miles an hour. Tori and Carrie are charged with the responsibility of timing the run.
Did you time it?
I did. It went 1,000. So that's
you
how
didn't,
much it was.
So basically you didn't time it.
It was 1,000.
It was less than 2 seconds.
I didn't have a watch or anything.
Okay, so the timing thing didn't work out, but the high-speed camera is very interesting. Compared to the slow run, the wheels are skimming across the tops of the bumps.
Just by feeling it, it felt a lot smoother.
Really?
I don't know what the data is going to say, but
Okay,
just
well, let's count up our
feel it.
water.
But there's some head scratching because the numbers just don't add up.
You ready for the countdown?
Yep.
Although Grant experienced a smoother ride, there was more water lost than the slower run.
Here. Yeah, those two there. It looks like you've lost 2.
Which means the physical data contradicts Grant's subjective experience in the car. Tori and Grant respond to this blip in the proceedings in their own special way.
You'll never defeat me.
I have come to take over the world.
And with that done, it's time for the final run. And Grant feels the need for speed. This run, he's going to hit 70 miles an hour.
So if he starts steering in towards us, let's just run.
Grant and the Cutlass fly over the track. The high-speed camera again confirms the tires skip across the peaks of the corrugations, exactly as the myth suggests.
It felt actually pretty smooth.
Yeah, it looked really smooth.
I mean, subjectively, very smooth.
From the glasses, it's looking really good. It looks like there's a lot less spillage this time.
This time, the water lost from the pyramid backs up both Grant's experience and the high-speed results.
Quarter, that's it. That's it.
So it's looking good for myth confirmed, and Tori celebrates with a few skid marks.
Well, Jamie, we went ahead and built our artificial washboard. I think we can conclusively say driving faster on a rough road will give you a smoother ride.
Still, you know, you're driving 70 miles an hour and you hit a pothole, you're gonna break your suspension with that kind of mass and velocity.
What's the verdict?
Well, as far as the myth goes, it's confirmed.
Confirmed.
Confirmed. Cool.
Adam and Jamie have successfully tested the world's first diesel-powered speaker. The question now is how to maximize the rig's potential for the real experiment.
Do we bring it up to a certain speed and just run it until it busts, or do we try and like...
Like that. I want to crank it and just send it to the moon.
Adam's solution has got MythBusters stamped all over
do it.
Excess, and lots of it. Adam fires up the engine, and Wayne gets into position at the recording station.
In order for this myth to be true, we need to see this car destroyed in some fashion by the sound system, i.e. our big speaker. Anything else in this thing is pretty much busted.
I don't believe there's any way that the subwoofer is going to detonate the vehicle. I think there's a good possibility you could blow out the windshield or break some of the windows, but as far as actually detonating the vehicle, I don't see that happening.
Of course, Adam and Jamie are impartial scientists, so a result either way is valid. But let's face it, music to their ears.
We've got 3 melodies. It's called first gear, second gear, and third gear.
Will be the sound of shattering car.
Ready, let's go for it.
In 3, 2, 1.
Now that didn't go to plan. The car is very unexploded. I'm thinking the audio guy better get ready with the bleep machine. There you go.
I don't see no cracked glass.
And why not? Because the speaker sure did look like it was working. And if it was pumping out some serious sound pressure.
It actually, to me, looked like a piece of medical hardware when it was pumped. It looked like some kind of... I mean, it was so kind of barbarically primitive in the way it was moving. And yet, I was so gratefully pleased to see that it was moving exactly as we intended it to move.
Check this out. Blew the sunroof completely out of its tracks.
Oh, no!
Well, that's probably the reason the windows didn't go, huh?
Yeah, once you have any type of opening, you know, all the pressure inside is released.
The reason that we didn't get an explosion or shattered glass is because when you put pressure in a car like this, that pressure is going to find the first outlet it can and release itself. In this case, it popped the sunroof off of its tracks, itself not a small feat. And at that point, nothing else was going to fail because the air had plenty of room to move around then by escaping from the car.
Okay, so the sound pressure escaped into the wild blue yonder via the sunroof, leaving the windows and the rest of the car intact. But how many decibels did the Mythwoofer pump out before it broke down?
It did a 161.3 when it failed, but what's really impressive is it did it at 16 hertz. That is just almost unheard of to produce sound pressure levels that high at such low frequencies. Just takes a tremendous amount of energy to do that.
If we were getting 160 dB at 16 hertz, does that mean that we're only going to get 160 dB at any hertz?
No, because you didn't hit the resonant frequency of the vehicle. There's a lot of resonances and reflections and things like that that come into play. From what I've never seen a car brutalized like this.
I think we did a good job of this. I mean, Wayne had never seen anything like this. I don't think there's ever been a speaker installed in a car that is this big and this powerful.
Well, we managed to get the speaker working. The rig held together beautifully, enough for us to get up to 16 hertz. That's 16 pumps per second, which is not an unimpressive feat. And we achieved 161 decibels and change at that hertz, which is actually, by all accounts, a pretty astonishing amount of sound pressure.
Remember, a jet engine with 15,000 pounds of thrust generates 165 decibels of sound pressure.
Wow, it's just an incredible amount of force.
With the Mythwoofer pumping out that kind of sound energy and the car still not detonating,
now there's the failure.
This myth is looking as busted as, well, the Mythwoofer.
Wow.
It's a violent thing. It's a heck of a tune.
Did someone ask for a tune? The fat lady is warming up right now.
Well, guys, what are we going to call this? Busted, plausible, or confirmed?
Busted, without a doubt. Look, we created some ludicrously high decibel levels, and the pressure did exactly what it'll do on any car. It found one outlet, popped out through there, and stopped acting on the rest of the car. I'm not saying you can't smash glass with sound. I mean, I think that's entirely possible, but you cannot destroy a car.
Face it, the speaker's so big you can't get in the car, so it's ridiculously oversized, and it's powered by the diesel. If that doesn't do it, then any kind of regular conventional speaker isn't going to do it, even a really, really big one.
Yeah, no.
So it's totally busted.
Totally busted.